broader Web3 space?
So I guess that's not a great question. How are you navigating and I think you touched on it earlier with back to the gaming thing, where a lot of these games are trying to essentially build up more than just creating a game. They have to build up a user base, and they have to build up an infrastructure and a whole studio. How do you go about the third prong of the digital assets, the play and earn, and then you have the digital metaverse real estate, which is more of a separate sector, in my opinion? How do you navigate all of this metaverse craze? And what do you think the use case of digital real estate will be long term? Do you think it's going to be AR, VR? Do you think it's going to be actually more like the NFT world, like owning the worlds and off of Minecraft? Like, there's really a lot to unpack when you just say the metaverse, right? There's so much to unpack.
There is so much to unpack. It's a really, really loosely thrown out term. It's like very, you can interpret it in many different ways. So here's the way I guess I interpret it, and then you can take it deeper from there. The way I see it is just any digital world, which has existed for decades. When I used to play Mario Party when I was 8, I was in a digital world, right? When I go on Instagram on my phone, I'm consumed in their digital world. When I'm playing Fortnite, I'm in their digital world. Fortnite's a good example because there's actually a map. And so a map which I think 170 million people or something like that visit a day. And so how many people across the world know Paradise Palms? Many. And so that's the first, wait, hold on, I'm getting a ring here. So now that's the first use case of metaverse and digital real estate and things like that. A digital map can be, scarce in supply and people can know how to navigate it and things like that. And now, so why is this all hot now is because kind of like crypto Web3, right? Now you have NFTs where you can actually own these, let's say, pieces of a map. And so that's really exciting when it's used in the right way. Obviously, so we're seeing a lot of projects pre-launch their land before there's even a game, which is a dangerous method. And so you need to be wary of that. We all need to be wary of that. Realistically, we would want to see a game that's good, successful, and have a great strategy around releasing their land. Again, which kind of ties into NFT worlds and how that could make a little more sense. Or for example,
if you think about traditional real estate, there's two main use cases to invest in real estate. One, everyone's always going to need a place to live. And two, it's scarce. There's only one Earth. There's only so much square footage. There's only so much land to live on. So if you own a piece of that, you own a piece of the Earth, and it's scarce, it's finite, and you can't make more. And you look at digital real estate in the metaverse, you can just make unlimited supply, and not everybody needs it. So it's really, can you even call it real estate at that point? Or is that more just the buzzword to make it understandable to the new entrants?
Yeah. So I think in certain cases it can be scarce, and I think in the case, if you think of from the developer's perspective, if they're promising scarcity and they're a reputable brand, it's in their best intention to keep the scarcity, because if they don't abide by their own rules, trust in their whole game will collapse and the whole thing will go under anyways. And obviously these games, realistically in Web3, they make their money off of player-to-player transactions, right? So if they're making 4% on every player-to-player transaction, they're not, it's in their best interest to keep that going and provide the services in the game to make sure that continues and grows, instead of just selling, another lot of land, which might not make sense. But as far as what I think one of the best use cases is of all of this is, for example, I'll go back to Fortnite. If you can own a piece of the Fortnite map, which has 170 million users, and you were free to do what you want with it, and this is all hypothetical, theoretically you can lease out billboard space to Coca-Cola, and how much would they pay for 170 million views a day? Probably a lot, right? How much do they pay for a Super Bowl ad? A lot. So if you work backwards like that and consider advertising as a use case, yeah, it's a great one. And so basically the bottom line is, in the same way it happened with social media, is users is value, right? Twitter made all their money from advertisings, like advertisements. Instagram made its money from advertisements, right? There's users on the platform, and that's how we monetize them. And I'll give one thing that makes me a little more bullish on Web3 ads versus Web2 ads Web3 ads are immersive. You feel them, you can see them, similar to an in real life ad, right? When you're walking in the street in New York and you see a billboard, you're not like pausing your YouTube video for 30 seconds to see that ad. It's just kind of part of your life. Whereas on Instagram, it's between every post and it interrupts your experience. So I think, yeah.
That's a great point. I just had like a vision of someone putting on a VR headset, going into whoever has the market share of the metaverse and virtual reality. Let's just call it Other Side, which is the Bored Ape recently released land. And you put on the VR headset, you're walking down the other side street and you see an advertisement for Coca-Cola. So the person that owned that piece of digital real estate just sold that ad space to Coca-Cola.
Exactly.
So that's a great point.
Exactly. And so imagine, right? So Other Side Land has like 100,000 plots, and let's say it's a game as widely successful as Fortnite and has all these users. Not every plot's going to have the same traffic, right? Certain plots, certain users will do certain things to their plots, which will generate more users. And so that is kind of a business in a way. Like, let me develop my land the same way I would in real life to make a really enjoyable experience that will drive traffic day in and day out, that can validate, monthly users, that a brand will want to pay for an ad in here. And so that's kind of a very practical use case, in my opinion, of the whole concept.
Do you see like more, because we saw how Yuga Labs acquired CryptoPunks. Do you think that this acquisition is going to become more of a thing where there's going to be more and more acquisitions, maybe even Web2 players coming in and starting to acquire these Web3 players? Because what the Web3 players right now are lacking is capital and infrastructure. And a lot of these Web2 people could offer that. So let's just keep using Fortnite. If Epic Games wants to start getting into Web3 hardcore and integrate the blockchain, do you think they're just going to go ahead and acquire an existing metaverse? Are they going to create their own metaverse? Is something that I think about is, what's stopping Fortnite from saying, okay, we're releasing our own metaverse? They're going to get the whole market share.
Yep.
They're gonna stomp on everyone that exists. If someone like Fortnite just says we're the metaverse now, they will be the number one market share instantly. So what's stopping that from happening?
So nothing's stopping that from happening, and it's important to note that you don't need to be the best to make money, and two, more than one can exist, right? So Fortnite exists, Call of Duty exists, let's say 10 other shooting games exist, and let's say 10 are profitable, right? Fortnite, let's say, makes the most, and they have a majority of the market share, but the others are still doing well, let's say. Again, that's without me knowing the numbers through and through, but at a high level, you can see that. But yes, no question, if Fortnite entered the space, yeah, they would crush it. They would blow everyone out of the water. They probably would get majority of the market share. But over time, if the space evolves to the traditional gaming industry, right, where there's, what's the number? I think 200 billion gamers. 2 billion gamers?
In a $1 trillion market cap.
2 billion gamers, right? Something like that. So like if there was that many people looking for the same experience in the metaverse, yeah, there's going to be more than one successful one.
It sounds like we're really aligned with this, using the gaming analogies, and that's really maybe because it's the most obvious use case of the current position of Web3.
Yeah. So I also am not a believer in social metaverse interactions yet, until technology advances to the point where you can put on a VR headset and you really feel like you're in the same room as somebody. I don't see it as any, I'm not going to go in my web browser to say hi to somebody in a cartoon form. If I'm playing Fortnite, which is a lot more fun, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'll do that willingly because it's entertaining. But again, just my personal view.
Well, it's a good point because as a gamer, I'm sitting on my chair right now and I turn on my Xbox and I can play a game. But for VR, I live in a studio in New York City. Like, I don't even have enough space to put on a headset, clear up space, and walk around my apartment. Never mind the fact that I really don't want to put on a headset and walk around for my video gaming experience, right?
Right, yeah. And so I think VR is it's, obviously Oculus exists, but I think the reality of VR, what it's actually going to be further down the line, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, is, we probably can't even imagine it. And so, that's for technological advancements to decide and what is actually possible. So I wouldn't rule out anything as far as like what can be, but I think we're definitely not there yet. We're definitely not there yet. And so anyone looking for something immediate, investing in, say, a social metaverse now, I don't think is a good opportunity.
What do you think of this of Meta and what they're doing over at Facebook? 'Cause I've seen on Instagram, I was like, I went to go change my profile picture and it was like, oh, create an avatar. Like I did this on Xbox 15 years ago. I don't want to create an avatar right now that looks like a Lego.
Yeah.
What do you feel like they're just behind, or are they like just dabbling to like see if they can get mind share? It's weird. It's like as an NFT person, we're looking at it and laughing. It's like,
My
what do you think's going through their head?
My gut says they're behind, and it's laughable because that's how I see it. Maybe they are just so far ahead of it, and they're laughing at us. Won't rule that out. My gut says no, but
They have that technology.
It seems like they're doing it wrong. I don't know. It just feels like it.
Yeah, like as a Web3 native, we're like, what the? I want to make a. Like it was like the exact opposite of Web3 ethos when I went to change my profile picture and they wanted me to customize a character. Like that just missed the point. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly. And then the 47.5% fees, right? Like, I don't know if you saw that, but yeah.
No.
Oh my. Yeah. No, they released like how royalties on OpenSea are like 2.5%.
Oh.
Yeah. Theirs is going to be 47.5%. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess that's a limitation of Web 2 too, is that your number one goal as a public Web 2 company is to pay your shareholders, right?
Exactly.
So they can't really have that narrow-minded objective of moving the space forward, can they?
Right.
So we're coming towards the end point. I wanted to roll off a couple questions, if you can. What's your if you just had to gut guess, what's your winner for the infrastructure platform that's going to win versus like Polygon, AVAX, Solana? What's your winner?
Ethereum is the winner. L1, I think, without a doubt in my mind at this point. Look, obviously, you can never be too sure of something. New things will be built. Technological advancements will happen elsewhere, which may change my mind. But given the information I have today, I think it's definitely Ethereum. And there will be several L2s, let's say, that will help scale this